Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Coffee with Derek and Craig. We're going to do some different stuff today. We're going to talk a little bit, or really it's a little bit about cleaning and preserving the finds you make. This is a show that, we can add part 1, part 2, part 3. And it's, a lot of stuff we talk about, it's just not an easy topic to get into a show. It's, half an hour long or something like that. I just wanted to tell you guys too that we do have a new kind of email address, and I put it up on chat, or I'm putting it up on chat now. It's a hmd.radio1@gmail.com. If you guys have a topic you want us to bring up one show, or what have you, or you maybe even want to call in or be a guest on the show, feel free to email us. Let us know so I can kind of get back with you, and it's about the easiest way, Craig, that I can figure out, other than going through our Facebook page at Hardcore Metal Detecting on Facebook. You can private message Craig or I on there, and we'll get together and figure out, maybe when you want to be on, or what you want us to talk about. Because we kind of go with the flow on this show. It's not really a formatted show. These morning ones are more specific, I guess you could say. We try to stay on topic a little bit more. But even then, if you're talking about settings or what have you, I mean, you can't get all that in a half an hour show. That's a show that can, we can do, once a week, twice a week, whatever, and still have plenty of information to give you all or talk about, because it's ever changing. But yeah, it's hmd.radio1@gmail.com, and you can get to us through there, and you can call the show at 352-504-4170 if you like, and bring up a topic that way while we're live on air and everything. Hit the comment button there from the Spreaker site if you want to join in on chat. A lot of you all are driving and stuff, trying to get to work, and just be safe out there. It gets kind of crazy, I know. Used to do it all the time. So anyway, at any rate, Craig, we get this question a lot of times, and it's a question that really it's ever changing, because we make these really nice finds, or what we think they are, and how to clean this stuff, how to preserve it. And one of the biggest things, and we've all made this mistake at some time, when you dig something out of the ground that's I don't care, 100, 200, 300 years old, the first thing you don't want to do is sit there and rub on that thing, and like if it's a button, say it's an Eagle button, I've seen those things disintegrate in people's hands. I mean, they're just old. They're old brass. Another one is spoons and stuff. Sometimes you get these real ornate spoons, and they're bent. And I've made the mistake myself, thinking, oh, it's just bent a little bit, I can bend it back. And you break it. I mean, that brass gets brittle. It flakes off. It gets, like the copper, you can actually break stuff right off of a button or a coin, or really scratch it up pretty bad. Be ginger with them. And
it's called over cleaning.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, this is something that you got to learn, and it takes experience. It's when you first start metal detecting, you find something really good and it's not in good shape, and you try to, you're trying to make it into, better, and you end up ruining it because you use too much ammonia on it, or you just scrub it too hard, or it's a brittle button, or it's got little carbuncles all over it. That's what happens with brass and copper.
Yep.
And so, you have to make a judgment call. Sometimes it's better to just leave it. I've even had people, a guy taught me a technique called uncleaning, where they actually highlight it. They actually put dirt back on the button to highlight they put like Vaseline on the high points, and then, sprinkle dirt on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a guy do that with, I think, 2 my 12th New York buttons. They didn't have any gilding on them, originally anyway, and they were just like a 12 with a wreath around it. But they were, fairly rare buttons, but he said he was, had developed he was a really good relic hunter, and he found a ton of stuff, and he was, into, carefully cleaning this stuff, and sometimes you just got to realize that the item is not going to come out very good.
Well, exactly.
You don't want it to be, but that's the way it is. And a lot of this stuff's been in the ground. Certain types of ground work on the objects more than other grounds. Some grounds turn, stuff green, and then other put, like carbuncles, and you got little eruptions on the coin.
Yeah, it's like a cancer almost on the coin. Just kind of eats it right away.
Yeah.
And I've seen a mineralized ground where you dig a button, and I saw a lady do it. Oh my God, I got an eagle button, and she rubbed her thumb over just to knock the dirt off of it, and it just caved right in. It was done. It was just that brittle, and you got to let them sit out. You got to you be really careful with this stuff. It's been in the ground so long. Bottles are the same way. I've heard it. You have to let them. You dig them out of a hut site or something, and then so a lot of the guys at the one hunt I went to were saying, you don't want to do it. You don't want to wash them. You don't want to do anything. You let them sit for a week or so. Let them get used, because they haven't seen the air in so long. They've been in the ground, and they will crack. They will, do stupid stuff, and you got to be real gentle with them. And don't clean it until you break it. I mean, in other words, it's just the patina to me is everything. I think it's a lot of the relic hunters. You want to see the detail and stuff, but you don't want to, rub off the patina of the coin. Or, well, Craig, you talked about this on just a story that you had. It's been a while ago that you had a young guy that found a 3-ringer or a 69 caliber from the Civil War era, and he cleaned it until it was a nice shiny piece of lead. Well, that's not what you really want to do. I mean, if you want to do that, that's fine. Mm-hmm. But I mean, why? It took away all the history, all the patina off of it.
I did that with the first 3-ringer I found, because I didn't know that you were,
Yeah.
I had no idea, that you were leaving them white like that. But sometimes you dig them out of the ground, they don't have any, real patina on them.
Right.
But most of the time, they'll have, seems like in mineralized ground, they have even more patina on them than regular ground.
What I found down here...
And the same point is the buttons don't do very good in mineralized ground.
No, that's really tough.
They look really bad. Mm-hmm. The only way they don't is if they have some gold gilding on them, and usually the gold gilding will kind of protect the front of the button. But
you don't want to clean it until you flake it off either. You can actually knock the flakes off, the gold flakes off of it.
A few weeks ago, I did a video on. I went back over my yard with the Bliss tool, and 2 of the finds I made. I found a bullet, and I found a flat button, and I found a Indian head penny. And the Indian head penny was really corroded. It had, little carbuncles on it, and it was kind of rough, feeling. The back actually looked good, and it wasn't,
wasn't too bad.
Was pretty good shape, but the front was, it was discolored and different things. So what I did was I kind of brushed the dirt off, and then I put it in a hydrogen peroxide for a couple hours, and I took it out, and I brushed both sides of it, and the back looked really good, but the front still wasn't. I got a lot of the corrosion off, and most of the carbuncles came off, and so I soaked it for another couple hours and brushed it again, and then I dried it off and put I got this Renaissance wax, which is a preservative that they use in like the British Museum, and I think in Smithsonian and different places, and it's pretty expensive. It comes in a little tiny little can, but you don't need much of it. And I just put a little bit on my finger and rubbed it into the coin. And when I was on Instagram, one of the ladies at Metal Techs down in Central Virginia told me to. She said that Renaissance is pretty good, but it's kind of weird. And she said, let it dry and then brush it. And so I did, and man, it looked, the date actually popped out on it. It was 1907, and a lot of the high details on it really popped out on it, so it looks good.
I wonder if that would work on the V nickels. I mean, a lot of people, I get them out of the ground down here, and 90% of the time they come out and they're pretty good. But I don't have real mineralized ground, but I see a lot of people dig V nickels, and man, you can barely make out the V and stuff. And I wonder if that stuff would work on those nickels to bring out the dates, because that's a lot of times all you can get. You just want to get a date off the thing.
Yeah, well, there is some kind of acid or something you can use called Nicodate, and you can get it on eBay, I think. But you put it on where the date is, and it'll kind of bring out the date.
Oh, okay. That's kind of what they use for other stuff too, And that's I want to say this too.
I'm not on this sure show, what it's made out of, but that's what they recommend on it. Mm-hmm. Nickels are notorious for being cruddy coming out of the ground. I've dug 4 shield nickels, and I think I got one with a date on it, but they're not. Those coins don't come out of the ground very good at all.
And I wanted to say that we have a standing rule on this show, on both shows, this morning one and our regular show on Thursday and Saturday nights. It's a disclaimer. We do stuff on here. We talk about stuff on here about how to clean stuff and everything else. I mean, do your research on how to do this, because some of these things we talk about, well, you just need to watch a video about them or do some research, because you don't want to mix chemical. You want to be careful with chemicals and anything else that you're using generally anyway. So I'm just kind of throwing that out there. Don't go mixing stuff and trying to come up with a concoction and wonder why your fingers get burned or whatever else, because you can mix. Chemicals are weird. You don't want to mix certain things together, or you're going to mess with yourself. I mean, it can make gases and stuff like that can hurt you. So use common sense and look up this stuff. And I'm not talking about the waxes stuff. When you start dealing with acids and even though they're not real strong and evasive, you don't want to mix it with certain things.
Yeah, like I'll give you another example. I dug a flat button, and when it's what you call a coin button. It's the same size as like an Indian head penny. There's when you see it, it looks like a button in the ground. And, I dug this one in a plug in my yard, and I saw it, and I could see gold, coming through the dirt, and I was thinking, oh my God, is that a gold coin? And then when I turned it over, I could see gold coming through on the back of it, but it turned out to be a Benedict extra rich Waterbury button company button, but it had like treble gild probably on it. I mean, the back of it was just, it had like 99% of the gold on it. It was just, striking, but the dirt was really embedded on it. And in the front, it had a lot of gold on it, but right in the very middle, you could see where it had worn. And I realized that I dug another button exactly like it in the yard. So I looked through the box where I put all the stuff up down the yard in one box, and I found it. And I couldn't get, that one. The gold was kind of like a lower grade looking. It was kind of washed out looking. And the back of it, I couldn't really get any detail much off the back. But what I did was I used CLR, as use it for rust and calcium deposits and stuff like that. Right. If you have a button with a lot of gold gilding, don't do this on just a plain brass button or a copper.
Oh, no, tarnish it like weird color and stuff, won't it?
Yeah. Now you can brush it like real quick and then put it under water maybe, but I don't recommend using this like on a copper coin much. But with a button, I was able to just wipe it a couple times and all the grime came off, and it like shined up the gold on it. It just really turned out good.
Yeah, if
But
you
this
soak,
is a technique. I learned this from some of the colonial relic hunters up in Connecticut and stuff that, were showing a couple of these techniques. But you got to be careful, and you got to kind of decide. You got to make a judgment call on whether to clean or not to clean.
mm-hmm.
And people I've known have actually uncleaned these buttons, where they actually put dirt on it to highlight, the button. Because some of the buttons, they just don't come out good. And
you're dealing with buttons that are that old, Craig. I mean, it's like coins, like King George's seconds and stuff like that. A lot of times they're so, they're just so old, been in the ground so long. Really, all you can hope for is to maybe get a date, or at least be able to tell what King George it is, because you're looking at the way that the shadow of the head is facing, so you can kind of tell it.
Well, I had I don't know, 6 months or so ago, well, probably a little longer than that, I had this spot down the street, and I dug a cut real there, and I was almost giving up on the spot because it was just really disappointing. I wasn't finding anything, and I did a last sweep across the yard, and I got this cut 2 real, and then I realized, man, there's got to be more stuff here. And so a few days later, there was a big tree out in the middle of the property, and the owner was smashing it, trying to get it out of the ground, and he finally dug a trench all the way around the tree down about 2.5, 3 feet. And after he left, I went around. The first day I dug a King George III, and it was down in this yellow clay, and when I pulled it out, it was like the clay was just stuck to it like concrete.
Yeah.
And I think I dug that one with the Equinox, and I came back the next day with the Blitz tool, and about 2 feet away from where I dug that coin, I dug a King George II, and it was even in worse shape. It was so I couldn't tell anything at first, but it was the same exact size as the other coins, so I figured it's got to be another George. And but I didn't know how to clean it. I was like afraid to put water on and this and that, so I just decided to try just using toothbrushes. And I spent 2 months, and I would just going over with the toothbrush every day on these 2 coins. And I finally, on the first one, I finally got, I could see on the King George II, I could finally see, that it was a King George II, not third. And King George III came out really good, and it was, it didn't take as much time, but it still was a lot of elbow grease, just brushing. I brushed for hours over a couple-month period.
Yeah.
And I got all the stuff off the King George III. It's just, it's a little worn and everything, but it's a 1781 Hibernia, and you can see the harp and the crown, above the heart, really good on the back, and a lot of detail on the front. It's probably one of the best ones I've ever dug. It's got kind of like a dark brown patina on it. And then the other one, I kept brushing on that, and that turned out to be a Hibernia. And I got where I could see the 2 on it, and I could see, quite a bit of the detail on it, but it didn't come out as good, and it's much more worn. Mm-hmm. It's 1730 something. I can't tell for sure. It looks like it might be 1735, but it's hard to see. But at least I found out it was a Hibernia, and I got more detail off the front. But some coins aren't just
they're toasted.
Aren't going to come out like that. Yeah,
right.
I mean,
they're just toasted. Yeah, well, you got to be careful too. What I'm going to mention too, because I've done this myself when I first started metal detecting and finding stuff. If you're going to clean copper, like pennies, do not try to use the same solution or that same bucket or whatever your cup or whatever you're using to clean your silver coins or your clad. You will turn, like nickels will turn almost a copper color or get that crud on them, and you can't get the stuff off of there. The same goes along with electrolysis. I would suggest that if you want to try this, it's not a hard thing to learn. It's not, but obviously you're dealing with electricity, and you're dealing with different things.
The trouble is a lot of this stuff makes the coins look weird,
Yeah, you got to be careful when you use this, but you can use a process they call electrolysis, and you can use like old cell phone cords and stuff like that to do this with alligator clips on them. It's not a real hard process, but just make sure you do some research on how to do this safely and in a well ventilated area. I mean, see, there's certain things I don't know about it either, and Brandon Stewart had given me, said, well, how are you doing? And I said, well, I'm using a spoon, and as a piece of metal, the conductor, whatever you want to call it, and then I put the coin in on the positive side, and he goes, oh, you're using stainless. Don't use stainless steel. And I'm like, why? He says, because when the gases come off of the out of the water, it makes a poisonous gas, and if you're not in a well ventilated area, you're going to kill yourself or something. You got to be. This is the kind of things I'm talking about. You want to make sure what you're using and what the effect is in that chemical or what have you. And I was glad he said something to me, because I thought of, Craig, stainless steel, great metal, it doesn't get messed up very easily, I can use it for a long time, no big deal. And everybody finds spoons and everything, I had them laying around, we find silverware all the time. And I had a system set up. The one thing that I suggest when you do it is get one of those surge protectors, plug your items in. You can do multiples at the same time with different cords. Plug them into that thing. That way you can turn the power off when you're messing with, obviously putting coins on the leads and stuff like that. And then that way you can turn it on when you're totally ready and put it in a place where you can't bump it. Just be safe about it. So I mean, disclaimer, you got to use your head with this stuff. In these processes, you don't want to hurt yourself or, breathe in something you shouldn't. Don't do it in your house, in your, kitchen. Try to do it outside on the porch or whatever. Electrolysis works really good on some things, and I'm sure you can look it up on YouTube or wherever what items you can use. This works well on old silver, stuff like that. You don't want to do it too long, and you don't want to use a conductor. I just suggest using iron as the conductor, because you can actually put the coin on the wrong lead, Craig, negative or positive, and it will draw an electroplate. Like if you had a silver coin and you were using gold as on the wrong, you just say a gold rod. Well, none of us would use that, but you put it on the wrong lead, the gold would actually leach to the silver coin, and make it look like a gold coin, which wouldn't be a bad thing. It'd be kind of neat, but you don't want to do that opposite either. You don't want to take a penny and have the copper electroplate onto the silver, silver dime. You're trying to just get the particles off there. Some of this stuff, they'll tell you about how long it takes. Sometimes it takes a couple hours, sometimes a couple of days. I've used it on a 4 real that we found over in I think it was Caladesi Island or something like that. It was so encrusted. It was just like black. You knew it was a coin or something, but I had to use electrolysis. I could not get that stuff off of there, and it turned out it was so beat to death anyways that I couldn't get any kind of date or anything. But just from the size of it and the weight of it, we knew it was probably a 4 real. And but yeah, that was the only way I could get that stuff off of there. That crud or whatever is by using electrolysis. So it's just another option. Craig uses a lot of times. We just use stuff like peroxide. We use don't use. I'm gonna say don't use any kind of. I've heard of people say, well, take a penny and you could put it in a Taco Bell hot sauce pack and let it soak in there for a day or two, and open it up and it'll be fine. The acid in the hot sauce or whatever, it will color weird. Vinegar, yeah, essentially.
It's some people use vinegar. Some people use. I've actually used lemon juice on gold gilded buttons, and
well, that's not bad because gold, is not. It's not as
you can take. I just dip the brush in in the lemon juice, and then
Mm-hmm.
just wipe the front of it, and then wash the button off real quick.
Right.
So it doesn't leak onto the back or anything. But that works really good. It'll really bring out the gold too. I mean, it'll just pop.
Right, but you don't want to use that on copper because it turns it almost a reddish color. It was, it wasn't.
Yeah.
At least when I did anything acid on copper,
It'll do
just
that
mess
with
up.
brass too.
Oh, will it? Like, I've
Brass
never
with
tried it.
red.
I just stay
yeah.
away from it.
Yeah. This stuff's been in the ground. It's not going to look good. Most of the stuff is not going to look that great. It's you're lucky if you got half the button has some gold on it or something. When after all these years of being in the ground, but it's hard enough to find this stuff, and then you make a mistake and ruin it, and it's almost like you didn't find it.
Right, or you break it, you're trying to straighten the stuff. It's like,
you want to be able to display it and show your friends and whatnot, and have a nice collection, so that's part of it is cleaning, and it's something that didn't really talk about, especially when I first started. I didn't know anything, I was a total newbie, and I had to learn from scratch because we didn't have the internet back then either.
Right.
It's now with the internet, it's just unbelievable. I've been researching all this podcasting stuff, and it's unbelievable how much information's out there. I spent like 3 hours last night watching videos, and so much information out there that if you go on some of these like Facebook pages with these relic hunters, like Virginia Diggers and some of those Virginia relic hunting, a lot of those diggers know how to clean stuff and how not to clean it.
Oh, yeah.
So you can ask some questions on there, and there's a lot of guys like me that have been doing this, 30 years, 40, 50 years even. So they have a lot of experience in, cleaning and whatnot. And
well, it's something we all can learn from. That's what we've always said about the show too. It's not just geared. This show's not just geared to the I guess professional relic hunter or whatever, treasure hunter or whatever. This is for somebody that's brand new to the hobby or thinking about getting into the hobby all the way up there, because there's stuff that I learn and Craig learns from you guys or from each other, just having these conversations that we hadn't really thought about. And maybe it'll remind you of, hey, I should have been doing, this, way back when, and I knew to do it, but I just never did, kind of situation. So that's what I love about the show. It's kind of geared towards everybody. And we, sometimes we get way too, and it's mostly me, I get, this way too up there, as far as information goes. And Craig does too with the terminologies and stuff. And this is stuff you guys will learn if you're new to the hobby, what we're talking about. We try to back off on that a little bit, to try to, layman's terms, use those a lot more. And it's just second nature for Craig and I to use these terms and these, definitions. Shop talk is what it amounts to, about how to clean stuff, how to swing a detector, whatever, what we're hearing, nuances, all these words, and you're sitting there thinking, well, what the hell's that? Well, as you're in the hobby for a while, you'll understand it, but we don't mean to get so deep, but I mean, it's what we do. It's what, this is the, we're so into this hobby and so addicted to it and have been for many years that, I figured you might as well, if you hear it, usually we kind of explain ourselves pretty good about what we're talking about.
Some of this stuff took us years to learn, and now we can, help people, not make mistakes, that we'd made over the years by not knowing the information, and so it's I've actually gone back and cleaned stuff that I've had, in the past, recently, and made it look better. Because I was afraid to do anything back in the old days, but
well, when in doubt, don't clean it. That's what it comes right down to. Don't clean it if you don't know what you're doing.
You have to make a judgment call, and it takes some experience to do that. And it also, you're emotional about it. You're sitting there going, "Oh my God, I'm hoping this thing comes out good." And sometimes you make it worse.
Well, I just say too, Craig, is that. And I do this myself. Take a picture of the item that you found. just generally cleaned up, whatever. You take it out of your fine bag, take a picture of it, both sides, and then make a decision on whether you want to clean it or not. That way, at least if you screw it up, you at least have the original photo of it, so you can say, "Hey, look what I found," and whatever. You have, because once you clean it and if you screw it up, you're done. At least you'll have a photo of it coming out of the ground or whatever, just for your own sake. Because it's a weird feeling when like Craig says, it's like you didn't even find it. So
I got a good app on my iPhone called Magnifier, and you can actually take a picture of the magnify like a button or a coin or whatever with your iPhone, and then you can take a picture of it magnified, save it. But I saw Charlie Digger Charlie from Stealth Diggers. He's when he's out in the field, sometimes they'll dig something up and they can't see a lot of detail, and I saw him using this app the other day, so I thought, man, that's pretty cool, and it actually does a pretty good job. So that's something you can kind of get maybe when you're in the field, because a lot of times when you dig it, you want to find out right away what you got, and maybe a date on it or something, and sometimes you can use this magnifier and get your curiosity out of the way,
right?
And then wait till you get home to really clean it. But
I guess, Greg, we're probably gonna. I was going to say, we're probably going to wrap it up tonight. We're already over our half-hour show. We don't want to go too far over. But yeah, we're going to do more shows like this, because this is a deep topic too. We can really get. It's interesting. A lot of this stuff is really interesting. How we clean stuff and how others clean it, and maybe take the bits and bobs that work for you, and put them to work for you, and how you want to. I mean, that's what all this information is all about. Just because somebody does it this way doesn't mean you have to do everything that way. You can pick and choose what fits your hunting style, what as far as metal detecting or how to clean stuff, what works for you in your area. But we want to kind of limit these shows to about a half an hour. Craig, thanks for listening, guys. Be sure to like and follow the show. And we're going to try to do these at least Mondays and Fridays, or we're going to try to get Wednesday in there too. And, of course, our regular shows on Thursday and Saturday nights at 8 p.m. You can usually check us out at Facebook at Hardcore Metal Detecting. We have information on there, too. And, of course, the new email address at hmd.radio1@gmail.com. All right, y'all have a good day. Keep digging, and God bless.